Of course, we all know the greatest feel-good moment that has happened in MMA in recent times. Alexander Volkanovski showed up. He looked like vintage Volk. I don't know about Prime Volk. He had a tough fight, but he was taking on a very, very tough Diego Lopes. Perhaps this was a Prime Volk. Who knows? But Alexander Volkanovski's back. He's champion, and he is ready to be active and reign over the division. Today, I wanted to ask the question, who can beat Alexander Volkanovski? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. I have the UFC rankings up here to show you exactly to take a look at who we are talking about. And of course, we're going to be taking a look at the featherweight division in Alexander Volkanovski. First off, can anybody move up and fight Alexander Volkanovski? Maybe Merab if he takes on Sean O'Malley and Piotr Yan again. Well, I mean, we know that he is taking on Sean O'Malley, but if they end up fighting, Alexander Volkanovski will absolutely mess him up. But this is interesting to talk about because it's like we have a version of Prime Volk back here at us, okay? We know that both Max Holloway and Ilia Topuria are taken off from the featherweight division. Now, what about Diego Lopes, though? If we ever end up getting any sort of Diego Lopes rematch, I think that Diego Lopes showed that he is capable of beating Alexander Volkanovski. Diego Lopes is in his prime, and Diego Lopes is probably only going to get better. And he did mention that he is going to sit down. He is going to get better moving forward. I think that's a great thing, and I wholeheartedly believe that Diego Lopes will find himself in a title fight, not relatively soon, but I think that assuming that Volkanovski ends up remaining champion, that they'll find each other again. Movsar Evloev, though, most likely to get the next title shot. Can he beat Alexander Volkanovski? I actually don't think so. If these two were to fight, I would really bet on Alexander Volkanovski. Take a look at the fight with Islam Makhachev. Movsar Evloev, he brings an incredible all-round game, an incredibly difficult to deal with wrestling sambo game. With the way that Alexander Volkanovski never accepted bad position against Islam Makhachev and consistently used every little bit in his arsenal to fight against that, and he did a great job doing so. I don't think that Movsar Evloev will have nearly as much success as Islam Makhachev did, and Islam Makhachev had very little success against Alexander Volkanovski in the ground as well. I really believe Alexander Volkanovski would mess up Movsar Evloev. It would be a standout performance. And that's one of the easier matchups in the division because we were still worrying about Volk's chin, right? Before we talked about the Diego Lopes fight, like Movsar would have been one of the safer fights. A lot of people want him to come back against Movsar because he probably wouldn't get knocked out. Let's talk about Yair Rodriguez. I think it would go a little bit similar to the first one. Yair is a problem on the feet, but I don't think he would be able to finish Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, no, I'm not ready to talk about Volk's chin again because Volk ate some ridiculous shots against Diego Lopes and survived. Maybe Ilia is just that guy. If anything, it made me more convinced in Ilia Topuria. But Volkanovski already beat up Yair Rodriguez, and I would imagine that he would beat up Yair Rodriguez again if they ever ended up fighting. And it's important to note, too, Yair Rodriguez does seem like a leveled-up version of Yair Rodriguez. Who knows if he ended up jumping on something, because I know we had a little bit of a controversy with him perhaps taking something a long time ago. I have to remember the exact details on that. Was it Yair? You know what? I don't want to talk on my butt here. Just in case, we're going to ignore what I just said about Yair Rodriguez, okay? My point being, he showed up in, beyond perfect shape. He looked incredible. Arnold Allen. Can Arnold Allen fight Alexander Volkanovski? He could probably have a good fight with him, but I don't think he's good enough to outpoint Alexander Volkanovski, and that's probably what it would come down to. Lerone Murphy. No way. No way. He is a very good striker, but Volkanovski is just better. He has better experience against better competition. He would probably outpoint Lerone Murphy. Aljamain Sterling, more of the same. If he ever finds himself in a fight with Alexander Volkanovski, if I don't see Movsar Evloev holding Alexander Volkanovski, I doubt Aljamain Sterling will hold Alexander Volkanovski. If Islam Makhachev can't hold Alexander Volkanovski, he's not going to hold Alexander Volkanovski. Josh Emmett would get creamed. The big other one, and probably two actually, to be honest with you, Dan Ige can fight anybody. Dan Ige would bring it to Volk, okay? Yusuf Zalal, Yusuf Zalal and Gene Silva. These are the other two that could potentially fight Alexander Volkanovski one day. Yusuf Zalal is improving at such a grand rate that I could see him being good enough to the point where it's like, okay, maybe a couple years down the road he gets a title fight. Alexander Volkanovski is about, 38, 39 years old in the featherweight division? Maybe that's the time where we see an upset. The dude's looking good. I know that he had one performance that left a sour taste in everybody's mouth. Before that, he's been looking great, and he's been improving at an incredible rate. Gene Silva just might be that guy. If they were to fight, the problem is Gene Silva hasn't taken on anybody like Yair, Movsar, Ilia, Lopes, Holloway, or Volk. He needs a big test first. If he does the same thing that he's been doing to any of the top 6, I would say, then I might pick him to beat Alexander Volkanovski. The dude seems to be that good. But what I also can see is Alexander Volkanovski not accepting any of the bullying that Gene Silva would bring to the octagon. When Gene Silva comes in, he bullies you. Alexander Volkanovski wouldn't take that, and he would bring it right back to him, and he would not accept any, like, giant forward dominating pressure that Gene Silva would bring. He wouldn't accept that. Jab in the face. And he would meet him there, too. Maybe out-wrestle him. That is probably the most interesting fight. I am completely convinced that Gene Silva is the real deal at this point. I just need to see him to beat one of the guys in the top 6 before I actually, pick him to win against an Alexander Volkanovski. So Gene Silva, is he capable? Yes. Out of the entire featherweight division, Lopes is capable. Gene Silva is capable, and Youssef Zalal is capable. And Lopes. Did I say Lopes? Lopes is capable. I actually don't think that Movsar Evloev has a chance against him. I really, really don't. It's just the matchup for Movsar Evloev. But if Alexander Volkanovski were to ever move up, I could see him getting a little bit confident in himself and moving up. What if he were to take on Islam again? We know how that would, unfortunately, probably unfold. Islam is still improving. He's looking great. Alexander Volkanovski would, unfortunately, probably suffer. I don't imagine him having the same performance as the first time. But then again, he did show up as Vintage Volk. He did show up that way. Realistically, though, who else could Volkanovski fight? He's not going to go for a run at lightweight. Is there anybody else up there where he can have a big fight against? Maybe if somebody ends up taking the title for Islam, he can go up and try to get another shot again. But it looks like Islam might be fighting Gaethje next. Alexander, for the sake of it, for the hell of it, for talking about the video, Alexander Volkanovski versus Justin Gaethje. Gaethje can clock him, but I do not think he would win that fight. So, who is most likely to beat Alexander Volkanovski, though, guys? Who's most likely? Sorry, I just changed OBS scenes by accident. I believe the most likely to beat him actually is Gene Silva. And I hate saying that because it's like I'm buying into just some hype of a brand new fighter, but I'm not, man. I'm convinced. I'm convinced he's the real deal. Will he be a champion? Who knows? But he definitely belongs in the rankings. He definitely belongs in the top 10. And I'd pick him to steamroll quite a few guys in this top 10. He's going to be in the top 10 after Holloway and Ilia Topuria actually take off. Crazy, man. Ilia Topuria number 3. Very weird. Guys, let me know if there are any fighters that you believe can beat Alexander Volkanovski right now. I would love to have your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you very much for watching. Check out this video on screen if you want to keep watching the channel. YouTube thinks that you will like this video the best if you've been enjoying the videos. Thank you again for being here, everybody. Take care.